This week's episode is sponsored by Change. Change is the #1 mentoring program that teaches you e-commerce from scratch. Change has a real community with real results. I have been working with Ryan for many years now and have attended many of his events and retreats across the world and got to meet members and the amazing community of like-minded people. Ryan works with a lot of big names in the business world, helping them build online businesses and e-commerce. Change offers personal one-on-one support, no experience needed, but like anything, this takes time and is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you put the work in, you will get the results. E-commerce and online shopping is getting bigger and bigger. This is a great opportunity for anyone that is looking for financial freedom. For more information, go follow Ryan on Instagram at RyanJB, and he will guide you through the steps to help you get started and build a successful online business. You can now follow me on all my social media platforms to find out who my latest guest will be. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're notified for when my next podcast goes live. And boom, we're on. And today's guest, we've got Lady V. Lady V, how are we?
Back. So happy to be back. Round 2. Here we go.
Yeah, you were here over a year ago. We were talking about Epstein, Prince Andrew, Diddy stuff. Some of the things you says, people kind of ridiculed you in the comments saying you're full of shit, this and that. But now, things have kind of turned round. There's so much madness, especially with the Virginia Giuffre stuff.
Yeah, it's I think she's not having a great week right now. And yeah, you know what? Like, sometimes in life, you just got to wait and really be patient for the truth to come out. You know, there's so much that I could put out, but then at the end of the day, the public has to make their decision, not solely from my information. And right now, they are making their decision from what they are seeing her put up there, like just how she is. You know, her true colors are coming out now.
So Virginia Giuffre said she was abused as a kid. She came across Ghislaine Maxwell, who introduced her to Epstein. Epstein groomed her, trafficked her, passed her around, allegedly with the photo that you've always says is fake, with Prince Andrew in London. I think she was 17. People are thinking, nah, you're full of shit. You're a plant. You're just doing that because you've got connection with Prince Andrew. This girl's now been in a car crash. She said she was going to die. She only had 4 days to live. She was asking for money, and now it's coming out that the photos are faked. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing about her is, from everything I've ever read about her, that what she's put out in her, like, she did this sort of book that then she said, oh, it's not really autobiography. It's you know, based on, it's a fictionalized kind of book. Anyway, it's not even like a small lie that she does. These are ginormous lies with very, very big imagination. Now, let's remember that she also had this whole story that, you know, she went on a weekend to the ranch in New Mexico, spent with Prince Andrew, and they went horse riding and all these things that they did. She then retracted that story and said, oh, no, she got that wrong. Actually, she wasn't there with him. So there's stories like that we have to remember how many times she actually committed perjury in court documents and also got caught out. I mean, I actually have a file, which I don't know if I sent it to you, but it's like 180 pages of like her blunders. So yeah, it is good. It is good to see this actually like playing out right now, live as we see it. Every day there's something new, you know. Oh, she's just skived off going to court, but she's just kind of given the finger to a journalist, and she looks pretty healthy and pretty good. And I'd say you need quite a lot of energy to even be that kind of person, you know. It's not like she was all sort of sunken in and hiding. No, she's she's a wicked person.
She's went out against Prince Andrew. The alleged figure is 12 million. Nobody really knows the figure, what she got. So why not? You've won. Move on, kind of stay silent. Why don't you just not stay behind the screen then?
Yeah, I mean, actually, like the breakdown of her marriage, this is actually like a great opportunity because, you know, her true colors are coming out. She's making mistakes. And maybe the husband will speak out and maybe he will tell the truth. Because obviously, like, he knows all those skeletons in her cupboard because they met at around that time. So for sure, he knows like everything. And that must be a little scary for her right now. So I think that is why she's panicking and she's making so many mistakes.
Well, she's accusing him of a marriage of 2 years of being violent, abusive.
Yeah, which, you know...
Is that a tactic to discredit, do you think?
I think that's a tactic. I think anyone that pretends that they are dying emotionally blackmails their children, pretends that they're actually dying to their kids. I mean, that... You know, I don't know if she belongs in jail or she belongs in a psych ward, but, you know, this girl is not well at all. And to do that to your kids, to pretend you're dying and put that out there and then pretend, oh, it was supposed to be on a private Facebook page. Come on, like Instagram and Facebook are very, very different. And even if she was putting that on a private Facebook page, that's still fucked up.
What about the Epstein stuff then? How can she say she was on the island with him and passed about? Surely when they go to court, these guys must have charges. These guys must have the top lawyers to discredit them also.
So the thing about Virginia is she started falsely accusing men when she was like 15, 16. There was a case where she accused two 18-year-olds of raping her when she was like 15 or 16. The case was dropped. It turned out that it was not rape at all. Like, so this is not a new thing. She's been doing it her whole life. She has been getting payouts, blackmailing, extorting, and lying her whole life. That's all she knows.
It's fucking nuts to then think about it. But like you say, you've got to stay open-minded to everything. You've got to question all aspects and not just believe what a woman's saying or a man for that instance. You know what I'm saying? You can't just believe everything. No. But it's scary to think if it was all made up because the media's absolutely ridiculed Andrew.
Right. Yeah, it's terrible. Look, he lost his life. I mean, he couldn't even wear uniform to his mother's funeral. Like the fact that the late Queen was extorted for money, like in the last years of her life, you know, that is a horrible, horrible situation.
Why not fight it though? Why not go through
court
with it?
Have you ever seen a royal in a courtroom?
No.
No. This is why he was such an easy target because number one, he was never going to be in a courtroom. He would never, a royal family member would never be allowed to like be in a courtroom. And number two, it was the Jubilee and you know, the palace just wanted it to go away. He wanted to fight it. Of course he did. But he wasn't allowed to. And I think that is probably the saddest thing, that he wasn't allowed to fight it and he hasn't been able to speak about it. And, you know, when he did do it, that interview, yes, the interview was a disastrous interview. And that is kind of what sealed the deal for him. But you know, I say to people, if you rewatch that interview, actually knowing he's innocent, it does come across in a completely different way.
Yeah, now that you're saying that, but back then it was hard to believe.
Yeah.
Even I've been critical of Prince Andrew because I think, no, I've interviewed enough people and you just think, that was a mess. You should never be under the spotlight like that to try and talk your way out of something. And then you never took it through court. So people, same as the Michael Jackson stuff. I've interviewed people who says that Michael Jackson is totally innocent, and then saying that he's paid hundreds of millions so it doesn't go to court because they're just...
It's the same thing with Michael Jackson, civil cases. I actually believe Michael Jackson was completely innocent. I think he was completely extorted. I think Sony probably, you know, had him killed. Yeah, this is just, there's so many levels, right? But civil cases are a huge thing in America. And people paid for the case to go away, you know, and the lawyers know that, you know, high profile people, they don't want to be attached to, you know, a big case like that, and they will pay, and they'll pay millions of dollars, you know, for something to disappear, even if they are not guilty.
I was listening to Candace Owens. She was talking about Weinstein, 11 charges. Now, I'm not saying this man's innocent by any means. He's been charged and convicted, but there was girls in that court case, I didn't know this, who were saying he threw his balls down their throat and he done this. It turns out the guy's not got any balls. He's not got any testicles.
Really?
They cut his balls off, and apparently it's not, maybe, is it
Who
gangrene?
could cut them all?
From years ago, he had a disease.
Oh,
so like 4 of their charges get dropped because they were lying.
wow.
And I'm certainly not fucking sticking up for him, because it is an element of creepiness around him, but he did get convicted. But a lot, there's girls who are caught out lying.
They're
so
caught out straight lying.
And
And then those are kind of like descriptions of things that is sort of like, you know, quite in depth or in detail, like you just said. I can't remember if I mentioned to you last time, but I actually sat in the courtroom of that Harvey Weinstein trial, the LA one. It would have been about 2 or 3 years ago, just before Thanksgiving. And did I mention that before? And I actually watched Jennifer Newsom be cross-examined, who's the wife of Gavin Newsom, the California governor. And she actually got caught out lying. Like, it was pretty crazy. They brought the emails on this big screen in the courtroom. And they're like, are these your emails? And she's like, oh, yeah, it looks like my email. She was basically, after a supposed rape, right? Would you normally be wanting to meet up with someone like a week later? No, she was messaging him like, when can I see you? I'm in town for one night. You know, constantly. So, you know, yeah, I think there's predators out there, but there's also a lot of women that they know what they're doing, and they manipulate situations, and years later they want the fame and they want the money.
Well, he's definitely abused his power, but
sure he abused his power.
Where is the thin line for girls who are wanting fucked to get a certain part?
Yeah,
they end up doing the deeds. They end up winning Oscars and getting all the fame and everything that they've craved, to then feeling empty, because it must do tarnish their soul or something inside.
Well, they must realize, right? They only got that part because, you know, they gave that producer or director, you know, some kind of sexual favor. It must, just a bit like someone like Virginia getting a payout. You know, although obviously she's not a normal human being, but a normal person, you know, every time you would buy something with that money, which you basically stolen, you must sort of feel some kind of guilt of not deserving it somehow. You know, I think that probably maybe weighs in on someone at some point, but, you know, obviously maybe not with her because she's completely pathological, but a normal person, right? You would kind of have a bit of guilt that, oh, I'm buying all these things with money that's really not, I don't deserve this because I got all this money from making up some lies.
Yeah, scary. What about Ghislaine Maxwell? Did Virginia have anything to do with her sentence?
Yeah. The reason why Ghislaine is rotting in jail right now is all because of Virginia.
No way.
Yeah.
So what happened?
And so Virginia was actually, she was never brought forward to testify in the courtroom because in one of the cases, basically, because the lawyers just know people like Virginia and Maria Farmer can't really hold up in court very well. But the reason why Ghislaine is in jail right now is because of Virginia. So yeah, I know, I'm kind of rolling my eyes about all of this because it's like, hold on a second, this crazy girl who just said, I've got 4 days to live, and she's got to go to a urology hospital ward and all this nonsense. Ghislaine is in jail, and I don't know how many years has it been now? It's like quite a few years. I'm sure she's been following all of this. But yeah, it's kind of makes one feel sick, right?
But the Epstein stuff had 36, was it victims? And he was charged when he was a math teacher. He was quite creepy himself.
Oh, he was a math teacher,
yeah. And he lost his job, I think, allegedly abusing a kid, but then he got charged. And then I think he got put under house arrest. And that's when he met Prince Andrew. How damaging was that photo between the two?
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like that was such a setup, that photo. Like, as in like Jeffrey Epstein, like literally set him up and got him to walk in the park that day, and there was a guy that took the picture. Like, it really feels like that, doesn't it?
Listen, I'm all for listening to everybody. I'm not here to shit on anybody unless I've got the knowledge or the information. I can only speak it. But I did have the guard on for Prince Andrew. He did say he was a bit strange, but he did always say when he came to the palace, there was never any underage girls. It was all women. He just liked to party, and he used to bring the women in. Fucking women just used to go to the gate and say they were there for him, and they used to just let him in.
Just another thing, Prince Andrew was not having parties. The guy doesn't even drink alcohol. He has never drunk alcohol. The only time he had a drink, apparently he was about 11, and he picked up a drink, I suppose, in the palace, and it was probably either his mother's or his grandmother's, and it was pretty strong, and he was really sick, and he never had alcohol again. So people that get these stories of, oh, he was having these wild parties, the guy drinks water at room temperature with a quarter of a lime in it. So there's no crazy parties going on with him, I can tell you that.
What about the sweating photo? Because you says it was fake. Everybody believed it, because when he says he was sweating, it showed a photo and it did have lots of sweat patches.
Yeah, I found those pictures online, and I think they just added that in. Or there was like some photo, I think it was like on holiday, maybe in Spain or somewhere. But yeah, I mean, look, if he says he couldn't sweat at that point, he knows he couldn't sweat. And I think that was like the reaction, right, from fighting in the Falklands. So yeah, look, the questions that he gave, I mean, the answers in that rewind. The answers that he gave in that interview, it did come across as like, some people were like, oh my God, this doesn't sound believable. But that is how he is. He's just like very to the point and, you know, just honest. I don't really believe at all he is capable of lying.
Whose idea was it for him to do that interview?
I think it was his idea. You know, he's stubborn. And the Duchess of York was away in Saudi Arabia at the time, and she asked him to wait until she got back. She got back the following day. I think his daughter obviously wanted him to look. He really wanted to do it because he knew he was innocent. Like, if I knew I was innocent, I would be like, I just want to go do it. If I was guilty, I would run away from doing it. But if you're actually innocent, you think, well, you got nothing to hide, right? But when you film something as a producer, you can make something believable in whichever way. So that interview, you know, by the lighting, the music, the way the questions are, you can make someone look guilty or innocent. I think it's terrible, like how so many people made all that money from him by doing all these, you know, TV shows and things. Yeah, I hope they kind of really are realizing at this point.
Can they be sued? Because the Netflix series was #1 as well. I watched it.
Right.
They made the Netflix series about it as well.
Yeah, I mean, well,
surely the royals must have power to say, you're not putting that out.
Well, the thing is, that's the other thing, right? I think the palace wanted him to mess up. You know, there's a lot of, you know, other theories that they kind of, look, it's handy for him with his brother that he's a little bit out of the way. Like, this Virginia story was kind of like a bit of a delight, I think, for some of the rest of the courtiers. You know, they don't like him. And he's always been a bit of a threat, having been the favorite son. And I think it was very useful that this David Boy's Virginia story came out.
Why was he the favorite? Charles always seemed like the golden boy.
I think it was really like, he just personality-wise, he just got on better with the Queen.
Mummy's boy.
They seem to just share more laughs together, I think. And so there was a rivalry, a jealousy, and then this story broke. And I think some of the people around the palace were quite happy to kind of take his HRH away and all his, you know, titles and things. I think it was handy. And, you know, they should get all of it back.
jealousy between King Charles and Prince Andrew.
Yeah, and I don't even think that Charles is aware of some of this stuff. I think it is the courtiers around Charles that pull all the strings, and they're the ones that don't like Andrew.
Surely the king, though, can say, that's my brother, there's no Netflix docky. Surely they've got power. I thought they had so much power that they don't get fucked with, but it seems the royal family, it seems to be a bit of a mess the last 3-4 years, especially with William and Harry as well. And the Queen died. Since the Queen's died,
I know.
It's went messy.
I would really miss the Queen. I think the different houses, right, the Sussexes, the Yorks, you know, they all need to really bond together, and everyone needs to be at war. It's like a kind of internal war, right? The fact that they've been trying to kick the Yorks out of Royal Lodge, that's sick. I mean, how many houses does Charles need? Do you know what I mean? How many houses does Camilla need? Like, I think William came out and said, look, it's like he was happy with where he is, but it's like, come on, Charles, like, you're not even well. Like, why do you need that kind of aggro and bad energy between siblings to just do that?
What's the script with Kate? Do you know? Did you not say she had cancer and then she was fine?
Yeah.
King Charles was get cancer. Like,
right.
It seems a bit.
I know, it does feel like a crazy sort of attack on the royal family, doesn't it?
What do you think?
It is some sort of attack on the royal family.
It's got to be the weakest they've ever been.
Yeah.
Ever since my existence, of ever, like, obviously the Queen was a force, right?
Yeah, because you
seemed to run the show, well organised. Now it just seems everybody's falling out, and then they become an easy target. And you never thought that. You thought they would have good people beside them to the shots and run the show. Just doesn't seem that way.
No,
you don't really see them on the media as much either.
That's true. I mean, obviously, like, Kate stepped back a bit now, and you know, she's not doing as many royal appointments as she was. I mean, I think that would have been quite intense. It was almost daily, wasn't it, that she was out doing stuff. But yeah, it's, you know, they really need to, like, work together instead of against each other.
And who's the woman farmer? Who's she?
Oh, Maria?
Yeah.
Maria Farmer.
She accused Epstein also? She
was the original girl. So she was the first one. Besides, like, those, I'm not sure that the name, but, you know, that prior thing that Jeffrey had. But the main story was Maria Farmer and her sister Annie Farmer. And now, you think Virginia's a psychopath. This woman is absolutely insane. Like, she made about 100 videos of me on TikTok last year. Yeah, I know. So yeah, Maria, I'm coming after you at some point.
So what's she done?
She just made loads of stuff up. I mean, so she says that she reached out to the FBI in 1996 and first told them about Jeffrey Epstein and, you know, filed this whole thing on them. She's suing the FBI right now with fake evidence that George Tonks, who is the guy who reached out to me about 3 years ago now. My goodness, this has been a long road. But they were best friends, and she basically filed this case against the FBI with a journal that she just created 2 years ago. She's pretending it's from 1996, and she asked George to go buy her the vintage paper and the old ink. These girls are, like, so psycho. It's like she even went to, like, a vintage place and, like, found the paper from that era and the old ink and created this journal. And then as soon as she handed that into the FBI, that is when George reached out to them originally. The reason why the recordings and things I couldn't talk about before is he was nervous they were going to try and come after him and put him back in prison at the time because he was still on a gag order. That gag order came off last summer, actually. But I kind of went quiet on this stuff because his best friend Advar was murdered in Chicago, July last year.
Because of that?
So, I mean, how else? I mean, it was a violent murder. So, I mean, I think it must be connected. I don't think people get murdered, and every day. He was the guy actually who came up with the idea of recording the girls, and actually bought the listening device. So thank you, Advar, for doing this, because anyway, we haven't been able to talk about it, but in those recordings, Maria Farmer is in it, Virginia, George, and Advar was with George in the room recording it. And Virginia actually admits in one or two of the conversations how, like, basically nothing ever happened with Prince Andrew. Yeah. And then her and Maria basically were trying to get George to join them in a lawsuit against Les Wexner. And George was very young when he had a relationship with Les Wexner. I mean, he was like old enough, but they knew about that. And so they say in one of the recordings that George, they wanted to create a photo, and the lawyers wanted to do this as well, to create a photo of him and Les Wexner, just like Virginia had made of her and Andrew. So yeah, anyway, I'm relieved that this stuff is coming to light. It's been a lot of me taking on a lot of this information. I haven't been able to talk about it, and I just want it all to be over.
Yeah, especially if people are getting killed. This isn't...
Well, this is the thing, it's like a couple of people have got killed because of this, So we had Advar died last summer, but, other people connected to the Jeffrey Epstein, case.
But why would people still care about it if he did? Epstein.
Right.
Why would people still care about it? Who says what if he's dead?
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? When people are getting killed, they were thinking, who cares? He's dead. But why would these people not have, like, investigators onto these people to prove their lies? Because it seems so far-fetched. Listen, if everything's true about Prince Andrew, I owe the guy an apology, because I was, like I say, very critical of it, because the way I see it is King Charles's relationship with Jimmy Savile.
I want you to be invited to the rap party.
Yeah, Jimmy Savile.
Because there will be a rap party the day those girls are in the courtroom and are in their orange jumpsuits and arrested. There will be a party, and I will be hosting it.
Yeah, listen, it puzzles me because I've been very outspoken about it. The way I looked at it, King Charles's relationship with Jimmy Savile, Prince Andrew's relationship with Epstein, I'm thinking, how can this be if one of the most powerful families in the world to be connected to some of the biggest sex cases?
It's very easy to go down that kind of rabbit hole conspiracy route. It goes a bit too QAnon for me, but, going back to the sort of Jimmy Savile stuff, I think we were living in a completely different era as well. Like, things could be going on where you wouldn't know about it as much. Now we know about everything because we've got social media, we've got all these apps, we've got Google, we've got, imagine those days with like not even Google, but, the stuff that came out about Jimmy Savile, I mean, that is one sick human being. The Epstein stuff, it's weird because I think, gosh, imagine, like, I meet so many people in my life. I could easily end up taking a picture with someone, and 20 years later, I have no idea, right? We all take pictures of people all the time, and suddenly they're saying stuff. Sometimes I meet people and they remember every time they've met me, and it could be like 5 or 6 times, but I have no idea. I don't remember people unless I have like a proper conversation with someone, and then I'm probably like on WhatsApp and actually engaging. But, when you meet people vaguely for a second, it's like they remember you, but you don't remember them.
Yeah, I've interviewed 500
That's the
people.
problem.
Yeah, I've interviewed 5, and I've had photos of every single person. Something could come out in 20 years, 30 years. It doesn't mean, and that's what I says about
and that's the thing, even if that fake photo had been real, which it's not real. I mean, the arm and the thing, and when you zoom in like super close, you can see the line around the head. So yeah, I think soon I mean, look, all the messages I'm getting, like the DMs and stuff, like no one is believing her at this point. I got a lot of abuse like a week ago when I was like, yeah, four days, you know, 4 days left. And people were like, oh, you're so mean. And now it's like crickets. Like a lot of these groups on Twitter that were like the Virginia defenders, silence. Like they're not saying anything right now.
Do you think our wall's crumbling down?
Yeah, I think, and look, it also says a lot that her teenage children don't want to see her. You know, it's not like the kids are small and they're kind of a bit confused. Like these are teenagers that obviously do not want to be with her and do not want to see her. And, you know, it's quite natural normally kids wanting to be with a mother because, you know, well, especially when they're little mothers, you know, but no.
Could she get prison time? If she's lied against the Royals, if she's lied against Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, if she's lied
about so. I mean, I have quite a few actual police officers in Australia that have been reaching out to me, which has been interesting. And the very beginning of this, when the bus crash came out last week, they were not buying the story either. They were like calling her a scammer and stuff. So it is interesting that the police see through it.
What about the photo then?
I mean, maybe she could be extradited.
So why was it such a big deal with Andrew and her if she was 17 and it was in London?
Well, it wasn't a big deal. That's why she had to make it into a civil case. It was never a criminal case because if the story had been true, she wasn't underage. So they tried to the thing is, someone like Virginia, she didn't want a criminal case because then they might actually look into her. For her, she just wanted the money. You know, she also, another thing that people need to like look into, and all the journalists out there need to look into, is where is that money that was given to her foundation? Because there has been zero activity on that. And that apparently was quite a large sum. I think that was like, you know, possible like over $1 million anyway, a few million possibly.
What's she been doing with her money then?
I don't, well, she's got 2 houses in Australia. She's got one in New Zealand as well, apparently. And goodness knows what else.
That's scary though. It's scary to think if it is all made up, if it is all bullshit, if that photo is fake.
Yeah.
If that photo with the sweat is put there. Like it is, and 99% of people believed Prince Andrew was guilty.
I know, because
you've got to
that interview
fucked
no,
him.
that interview was like, I mean,
bad.
Virginia's lawyers must have been absolutely thrilled at that interview because it was like, yeah.
Got him.
Yeah, they're gonna believe you, Virginia, now. David Boys actually said to somebody I know, he actually admitted to this guy that it was a lie as well.
And surely though, if these people, I'm not sticking up for them, but surely if this was some sort of ring and trafficking, they wouldn't be getting photos of people. I used to party with football players back in the day, and everybody had to leave their phone and get locked in the locker.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because nobody wanted photos of anybody snorting gear or doing, do you know what I'm saying? So people used to lock their phones away, so I'd imagine it would be more high risk with people who are right fucking dodgy.
The thing is about these girls as well, I know you use the word trafficking a lot, but I don't believe that is the right word to use with these girls. They were there in their free will. They were living the high life on jets. None of them were being forced to be somewhere that they didn't want to be. Virginia's ex-boyfriends as well, like she always had a boyfriend, so it's not like she was, in her head she wanted to be with Jeffrey Epstein, but that's why her and Maria just wanted Ghislaine out of the way, and they would do anything to do that. I mean, I put text messages on my Instagram a while back of Maria Farmer actually going on about how much she loved Jeffrey. So they were not being forced to be anywhere. Instead of trafficked, it's more like living the high life and flying around on a private jet. I feel like that kind of word is just not the right word for this situation.
What about Epstein though? Because they had 36 people coming forward. That's a lot of people. It's not one.
But how do we know which ones are real? Virginia's story is unraveling right now. I know Maria's is fake. Sarah Ransom is she's on her own little planet. Juliet girl is completely bonkers as well. there's another girl that's got like 10 aliases. I don't know which ones are legit, James. I really don't. I mean, I know that Jeffrey Epstein, I do believe he was intelligence, like if he was either Mossad or CIA or something like that. I do believe he was running some kind of blackmail operation. But as far as like the credibility of any of these girls, like I don't know, I really don't know which ones are real.
Yeah, listen, if they're getting caught out lying, you've got to question it all. But the information that I had on Epstein, he was working with the CIA. I mean, whether that's
CIA, I can really believe that, and I have heard that multiple times, and it's either like what happened with the CIA. He was either getting information for them, and then they just kind of threw him under the bus at one point. It just seems to be a lot of people that were friends with the Clintons always end up in jail. I don't know why that is, but Harvey Weinstein as well, friendly with the Clintons, you know, they sort of end up in prison and dead.
Donald Trump was good pals with Epstein. He says he was a good guy 20 years ago.
I probably would say that about some. I don't know. I know a lot of people. I might say, oh, this person's a good person. 20 years later, they might end up killing someone. We don't know. We're not psychic, you know. As far as I know, is Donald Trump kind of he cut his ties with Jeffrey Epstein quite early on. They had, you know, they had some falling outs. They were quite competitive over real estate in Florida.
But it's scary because this man was saying he was part of the CIA, but what he used to do, cameras in all his house, have the parties, put people in compromised positions, blackmail them, and someone also says there was money laundering because no one actually knows where he got his money from.
Yeah, there was definitely money laundering for sure. Yeah.
Did they have money the way people say he did? Or did they get it from that man?
I think definitely money laundering. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of like drug smuggling operation like tied in because, you know, when he flew around on that plane, there was often people that had like diplomatic passports. So with a diplomatic passport, you know, you can bring whatever you want on the plane. So yeah. And now with this thing with the Epstein documents being released and all of that, look, just because some people were on the island, it doesn't mean they were like raping kids. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like they've sort of amped that up into something just to give people something, but it's not actually really going to give that much information.
But the Clintons, Bill Clinton was there, I think, 16 times.
Yeah, but I think I told you last time the reason I think why he was there, because from what I've seen, he likes sort of voluptuous kind of women. He's not into like skinny young girls. If you think about his exes, and I think he was there because he had a crush on Ghislaine and they were having some sort of affair. So I think that is why he was there.
Yeah, was it Monica Lewinsky?
Mm-hmm.
Has she ever came forward and told her story? I know I think she wrote a book, but has she ever actually done podcasts or interviews to speak about it?
I don't know, actually. She's still alive, though.
Yeah, she's still on Twitter.
She's still alive.
Yeah.
She didn't get knocked off, which is interesting.
Why do you think that is? A presidency having an affair that went global and still kind of, listen, they could have took her off 5 years, 10 years later. People would have kind of forgot about it.
But she's still, that name is still pretty famous, isn't it? Monica Lewinsky. I mean, and you know, when he was interviewed about that, and it was kind of like a deadpan face, you know, like nothing ever happened with her. And he looked quite believable, didn't he, when he first said that? So yeah, I mean, look, politicians, as far as what do we think about Barack Obama right now and his divorce situation?
It's just messy. I just don't ever think they were in a relationship. I know people say it's Big Mike and she's trans, and Macron, the French president's missus.
Brigitte, that like you said, that got exposed by Candace Owens recently. Yeah, so it's quite complicated though, this Brigitte Macron. So Brigitte Macron is actually the brother of the sister that died. So like, that's right? So yeah, it's very like kind of.
But do they put these people in a place of power to then promote all the gay shit and all the trans shit.
Yes,
because you look at this, I spoke earlier, a podcast earlier, and I was talking about the opening ceremony of the Olympics. And it was quite satanic. It was very
satanic.
Men in beards with their balls out. Like, what's that got to do with people who have
satanic agenda
for 4 years, busting their balls to be the best athlete they can be, to compete at the top of their game, for then trans people to be walking about stage? I just don't understand that. And now Candace exposed that. It makes a bit of sense. But then surely Michelle Obama's not a man. Surely they're not a gay couple. But then again, I just don't even know anymore. It's just crazy.
I think she is a man. I mean, I've had the special op guys that I've met in Florida, and they're like, yeah, she's a man. I'm like, really? When is this going to come out? Because I've been telling people for years now. But Brigitte Macron, I mean, it is. It's like a weird, you know about this thing called inverted genders, which is like this big Illuminati thing. So, you know, from the age of when they're born, basically, they're changed to the other sex, you know, from a very young age. And quite a lot of celebrities are these inverted genders as well. And yeah, it is. It's to promote this whole like transgender, satanic music now. I don't really watch a lot of like new music because it's really dark, and it's like you said with the Olympics. Imagine for those athletes that have trained their whole lives, and then you've got a guy with his balls hanging out and stuff.
It wouldn't have been fucking Weinstein anyway.
Yeah, my first post I put on Instagram about that, they took it down as well. It was like, okay, this is what we're up against, you know?
Yeah, look at the boxer. The male boxer that says it was intersex, born a female. That's a man.
Yeah.
That genetics of a man. The chromosomes are XY. He's got the punching power of a man, looks like a man, strength of a man. It's a man. And obviously it says the genitals, and it shows you photos of him as a little girl. Listen, for me, because it came out.
It should be your chromosomes. Like, that is what defines you. A sex change or how you're brought up, wearing whatever clothes, that is not what defines. Like, it is your chromosomes. That is one thing you cannot change in your human body. That is it.
And his chromosomes are XY. That's why he was banned from the world boxing competitions, because he had the chromosomes of a man. The speed, the accuracy. He just looked bigger and stronger than every girl on that. And that was sad, because some of the girls took a knee because the punches were just too hard. Yeah. And I spoke about that, but I get fucking shadow banned. But sometimes now...
Hopefully now we shouldn't get so many bans, you know.
Because of Zuckerberg.
Yeah, I mean, Zuckerberg has sort of moved sides recently.
Why is that, though? Why did he do that? How can you ban all the stuff about lockdown and vaccines to then saying it was the government made them do it and then jump into the other side?
Yeah.
Is it because Trump's got in and everybody's want to be that side because of the ridicule that people are getting from the left? But how can they just jump sides like that?
I know. I mean, well, Zuckerberg did fully come out, didn't he? And said, look, you know, it was a Biden administration that was doing all of this, and it wasn't me. And I suppose, like, at this point in time, you know, a lot of Silicon Valley actually have moved sides. I think that's what makes it easier now for us to be able to get information out. It was really hard a couple of years ago, you know, as far as trying to talk out about COVID and vaccines and all of that. Like, we were just silenced right away. Right now is a different time. You know, Robert Kennedy is now in charge. And as far as for health in America, this is huge. Like,
has he done anything yet, though, Robert Kennedy?
Has he done it? Well, I think he has done some things already, as far as like the food supply and the water, and certain states have like stopped you know, the air that kills you coming out of the planes with all the different kinds of I know, totally forgot the name. Chemtrails, that's it.
I've been speaking about it for fucking 10 years.
Chemtrails in Florida are like a banned, but, you know, certain states it's still happening. Like, just like how the Trump administration has managed to stop men in women's sports or men in women's bathrooms, you still have got certain places like Maine that are super, super liberal and are trying to fight that and keep men and women's sports. I mean, how is this even a question that we are allowing this to happen? You know, especially, yeah, the stuff that we saw with the boxing, that was like seriously violent. Like, how is a woman supposed to like be able to fight a man?
Yeah, the swimmer as well.
Yeah.
The swimmer was cutting about with all the swimming costume on, these peckers coming through the swimming costume, and he's breaking all the records. Like, it's just criminal. It's just not.
And this is also happening in jails a lot. Like, I know as far as for Ghislaine Maxwell, when I had been in communication with one of her lawyers, I know she was having a really hard time about a year ago because she had like a trans person like in her like area, you know, in the showers and stuff. So she was like too scared to shower because there's a dude in her shower. So this sort of situation, like these prisoners are, what they do is like, and these are people that have committed like sex crimes, you know, so a man is suddenly turning into a woman and the government is paying for it, is actually paying for their changes. Like, how is that normal?
How is Glenn allowed to do interviews in prison?
Is she allowed?
Well, she is. I think she was on Piers, or she'd done some sort of 15
Well, she did that. She did that one interview, which was on Talk TV, and I think she got told off actually, and then she got she lost like all her privileges. Like, if you do certain things, then they take away things, so she can't do her yoga or the things that basically try and keep her sane, as far as like being able to go to the library. I think she was like helping a lot of other women as well in the prison, as far as like how to help them with their cases, you know, legally. So yeah,
did she get killed off, or do you think she'll be fine?
I think, look, I think every day is hard for her in there. I don't think it's easy in there. But I think it would look quite suspicious right now if something happened to her.
Because of Epstein?
Well, just because, you know, things are not as it seems, some of this stuff. But yeah, I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, do you think he was killed? I mean, right? I don't think he killed himself.
No, he never killed himself. No, that's supposed to be the most secure, one of the most secure prisons in New York. The cameras and guards at the door.
And suddenly the cameras weren't working.
Were off, and there was no guards at the door.
Yeah, and then didn't they like try and talk or something, and that story just disappeared, didn't it? It was like,
could he still be alive?
I don't think so. You know, some people have written me messages before, but I don't think so. I mean, he looked pretty dead to me in those pictures. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, it just seems all a bit much. But what sort of information did he have to be getting?
Yeah, exactly.
He must have been a threat, especially with all the fuckery that he'd done and putting people in the compromised positions. What do you think of the Diddy stuff?
I haven't seen any of the latest. What is the latest on that?
I think he's just been charged. I think he's got caught. I think the trial's in May or June. It'll be interesting how that plays out. But apparently he was the same, putting people in compromised positions and video.
He's another one that was close to the Clinton side. You know, during the elections, actually Obama's election, he had this whole campaign called Swing the Vote, which he was getting young people in Hollywood and around America to go out and vote for the Democrats. So, yeah, I don't know.
See, I'm not asked about celebrities having parties and orgies and all fucking each other, taking drugs. Who gives a fuck? It's the things. It's the Justin Bieber thing.
Yeah, so the Justin Bieber. So apparently there's a video out there. I don't know how true this is, but apparently there's a video out there of Puff Daddy and Justin Bieber, and it's like some kind of inappropriate video. But I haven't seen it, so you know, the problem is nowadays with AI and stuff, like anyone can make stuff. You know, when I see things on Instagram nowadays, I'm like, is that real? Or is that, you know, there was a video the other day of Prince Harry with his kids sort of in the garden, and it was like, turns out it was like AI. It wasn't even real. So it is a little dangerous, this AI technology stuff.
But why then everyone who comes across Bill Clinton
dies
in prison or dead? Yeah. Have they still got serious pull? Because obviously you look at his missus' emails, 70,000 emails or 80,000 emails went missing, and apparently there was some dark satanic.
Those Hillary emails.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton.
There was some really crazy stuff where there's a lot of code words for, you know, children and pizza and
Pizzagate.
All of those kind of things.
But you look at John Legend and his missus.
I do believe that. I do believe Pizzagate is real, like 100%.
His missus was putting tweets out years ago, and there was some fucking dark tweets. And pizzas and listen, man, people could just order a pizza and say, "Oh, just get a great pizza out of Domino's. I'm just chilling tonight." It doesn't mean you're fucking trafficking kids. I want to buy kids, but it's just even with who's Ellen DeGenerate.
Well, she's hiding out in England right now, apparently.
Well, she said she was going to leave if Trump got
So adrenochrome is real. These special op guys that I speak to, especially when I'm in Palm Beach, they say, it's a real thing. It's not, adrenochrome is not a conspiracy. It's a real thing that is happening a lot. That's why I remember quite a few celebrities during COVID suddenly like aged a lot. And people were like, oh, they're obviously not getting their blood, you know?
Cher, Madonna.
I can't remember which ones, but there was someone that aged a lot. And there is also, I'm just trying to remember his name. He was running for president against George Bush. Do you remember who that was? Can we look that up right now? Yeah. He was caught with all these vials of adrenochrome blood.
No way. Someone who was going for presidency?
Yeah.
Yeah, see who was up against George Bush?
Yes, Al Gore, that's it. So allegedly, I will put that in front, Al Gore was caught with a lot of adrenochrome blood.
And he was going for presidency?
Yeah.
It's scary to think for people who don't know what adrenochrome is. It's when they torture kids, their adrenaline's so high, it's through the bloodstream, and that's when they inject the blood out at the same time of torturing them. Because the blood is at the all-time high, it's most purest, and people drink it. It keeps them young, keeps them alive. Apparently, like there's some madness behind it. And to think, listen,
and that blood it's like worth so much to these people because it's when that hormone is released, and like you said, the child has to be like terrified for that quick moment, and then they take the blood. And these kids are basically like caged animals where they're like kept alive and they're just tortured like all the time just for like new blood to be taken.
Like a cat market.
Yeah.
It's scary to think what actually goes on, but
so that to me, that is what like the real trafficking, and my, you know, how I imagine that to be, like kids literally like in cages having needles and things like prodded into them. And just like terrified.
See, that's the way I used to see trafficking, as people being shipped from
this trafficking.
Getting caged,
that is what trafficking is.
But they're using it freely now, and it is a thing
it's used too freely
with it. But you can be trafficked just by telling someone to make sure you're staying later at work or do your fucking work right. Or any boss can be a trafficker if they speak to their staff like shit. Be in, you can't leave at this time, you need to, like, it's getting used far too freely, but
I think too freely.
It is a popular word at the moment.
Well, because it sounds so dramatic, and it's a word that the Epstein girls were like latching onto because it sounded so dramatic. Oh my God, trafficking, everything's trafficking. You know, I actually even was added, I can tell you this now, but I was even added on some calls 2 years ago or so, 2 or 3 years ago. I actually heard Virginia Giuffre and I heard Maria Farmer, and I could hear them laughing about stuff. And, you know, this is why this story really, really got to me, because hearing them laughing about getting away with all their lies and all their shit that they've done, it really, really put something underneath me. And I was like, if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to expose these people for really what they are. And then I would hear Maria literally crying because she would say things like, oh, the lawyers don't believe me now, and the lawyers don't want me to go up, you know, in court, because she basically extorted other money from other people in the last 2 years. And when her lawyers were not listening to her, she would be calling this guy George all the time, you know, crying, but then she'd be like crying and then she'd be laughing, like total like psycho. Yeah. And this is a girl that was supposed to have well, it's probably more like a brain injury, but she would always be saying that she's got some sort of brain cancer. I'm sorry, if you have like brain cancer, you're not alive for years on end like she has been, because she's also a bit like a Virginia. She likes to play the I'm so sick kind of game. And the reason they do this is so they are not put in a courtroom, because then they can like say, oh, we're not well enough to be in a courtroom. They've been doing this for years now.
The American kind of laws are different, because putting in complaints and getting those payouts before court, it happens. It does happen frequently. And like I say, with the Harvey Weinstein stuff, I didn't realise that when Candace Owens says that. I went and Googled it and searched the transcripts from court, and the girl was saying, yeah, he forced his balls in my throat and told me to suck his balls.
No way. And they go into so much detail.
So from 11 charges, I think it went down to like 6, because they were discredited straight away. Like you said, they went into detail, and he never had any balls.
Right.
Which is madness.
Like, if she hadn't said that, she wouldn't have got busted.
I still think Weinstein, he's guilty. I think he abused his power.
Oh, yeah.
He looked like a sleazy old man. Doesn't mean you're guilty, but that's what I got. I think Epstein's guilty. Jimmy Savile was guilty. The Prince Andrew one I'm still on the fence with now, especially with the things that are out there. Like I say, if it's all true, man, I'm happy to apologise and say, fuck me, I got that wrong. And I think a lot of other people own, but you've still got to understand, with that interview, with being seen with Epstein, that's going to discredit you straight away. It's not a good look.
Yeah, of course. But just because you're photographed with someone, it doesn't mean you are the same person as what they are. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, the interview was bad. But now that you are seeing the unraveling of the lies, it's, I mean, people are not believing anything anymore of what she's saying, because
people aren't believing about anything that's in the paper.
So those pictures that just came out today of her totally normal, I mean, in my head the last few days I was thinking, well, she's probably she's gonna like injure herself. You know, she's that kind of crazy girl that would do harm to herself. Like, you hear about these women, right? They're going through a divorce, whatever. That she will like hurt her own body and then say that a guy did this to me, right? So yeah, I really hope Robert Giuffre, I hope her kids, I mean, I hope on that side of the family that they speak out. The problem is, obviously, Robert Giuffre has been living the high life, right, for quite a few years, since she started making money from all of this. So
who's that, the husband or the brother?
Yeah, that's the husband. And that was weird, actually. So when she first put that Instagram post up, it was on the Sunday night. I actually saw it like quite ahead of all the newspapers. I think they actually found it because it was on my Instagram. I don't think they had seen it, because they didn't write about it until like late the following day. I'd had one of my followers at about 10 p.m. tell me about it. And yeah, I'm happy that I was right. You know, no swelling on the face. I think it must have been some kind of bronzer or something. But yeah, if you're in a hospital, she didn't really think it out right. She should have taken the jewelry off, put a gown on, at least look like she's in a hospital and stuff.
Why would she say she had 4 hours?
This is the other thing, right? So that picture was taken in a sort of a daytime medical center. The story came out in the newspapers Monday UK time. It all started exploding, right? 4 days to live kind of thing. She didn't check herself in till 3 a.m. on the Tuesday. Obviously, the lawyer said to her, Virginia, you better freaking get into hospital right now, because they are going to be onto you. So she then hides out in the hospital for like 5 days while she's coming up with a story and getting her relatives to fly in to try and freaking save her. and then manages to get out of her court appearance that she was supposed to have today. But then meanwhile, stupidly, this is what is so fabulous about this story, is she rolls the window down and does the, the fuck you finger. Now, that doesn't look like a girl who's dying in hospital, does it?
What's she at court for? Was it not her husband? You know, make claims against false accusations against her husband?
The accusations. Well, she's now trying to say that, so if you have a restraining order, like, it's quite hard to get a restraining order. You can't just get one right away. And so he's got a restraining order against her. So she basically, she's one of those people that whatever she's doing, she's like reverses it onto the other person. So of course she's trying to blame it all on him, but how is she the one where the kids are with him, and surely they would be very aware of stuff going on because they are adults, really, like young adults. So how has he got the restraining order on her?
It's absolute madness if she's made up lies about Epstein, Maxwell, Prince Andrew, faked a photo, faked the stories, faking more stories now. Like, it's absolutely criminal. It's absolute madness that it's never been outed before, because surely they've got the best people, the best investigators to expose her, and they own the media. Surely they could and discredit her.
Well, you know what, James? I think this story was such a big money maker for so many people. It's like they didn't really bother digging into her that much. Like, I've been trying over the years to get different journalists and newspapers' attention, and they like to just run with that story. I've been telling them for years, this girl's a liar. I can give you this, and it was just kind of convenient for them to keep rolling with it. The thing is now, I think, like, the media sort of rolls with a story when they see what the public is thinking. So now the public is like, we don't believe her. So the papers are now wanting to look into it because that will then sell more newspapers. But unfortunately at the time, it was like people just wanted, Prince Andrew to be the bad guy. And this girl, the problem is as well, this Me Too movement, for me, I was like the first person to really go against that machine of, we can't believe all victims because not all victims tell the truth. And I did get a lot of shit for it, but I did not back down, because with the information I know, I'm very confident of what I say. But like, I'm not going to go out there and call them con artists and liars and stuff and put my reputation on the line unless I know that these girls are that, and they are that.
Yeah, you need to be 100%, because like I say,
and I have been 100% for like a few years now. So I've been able to go and say, yeah, I'm going to need a lot of apologies. People like Susanna Reid that pretty much got me taken off the show a year and a half. When was that? Was that a year or 2 years ago? But yeah, I do need a lot of apologies. Because basically I'm going to be the girl that saved the royal family at the end of the day.
Because it's understandable as well why people wouldn't believe you, the relationship with some of these names and what was out about Prince Andrew, the interview. This woman's done Netflix documentaries. She's done 60 Minutes in Australia. It's hard. And then obviously the photo, it's difficult for people to then believe anything you say. Even when I had you on a year ago, very open, says your piece. And listen, it takes massive courage to go against the grain. But the majority of people aren't just choosing to go against Prince Andrew or the royal family. When the papers are printing it, the news, listen, we all know, I always say, don't fucking believe what you read or watch, but when there's just so much against it and all the evidence points that he's guilty, it's then hard to then think you're telling the truth.
No,
Do you know what I'm saying?
That's the thing. I was really the only person that put myself out there and defended him. Like, I don't know where any of his other friends went, but everyone ran for the hills. And this Epstein case, no one wanted to be attached to it. And for a couple of years, I did, you know, quite a few interviews for Netflix, like all different channels about Ghislaine and all of this, but I never really wanted to get that involved. And then the beginning of 2022, I hadn't even like spoken about it for, I think it had been about 8 months. And suddenly like one of the interviews I had done was about to come out. I think it was an ITV one. And I thought, oh God, here we go again. And at that point, suddenly I was like, I need to start actually looking into this. And that's when I did start looking into Virginia, and more people, I was kind of connecting the dots of people that knew her, knew stories, all kinds of things. And yeah, then I had people reach out to me who had information. We still haven't got to the guy that actually is the one that told me he's the one that swapped the heads in the photograph. He's a British guy, actually. So I haven't brought him out into the public yet because I wanted things to naturally come out before bringing someone like him out, because the public has to be ready for that, you know.
So was he actually standing next to a girl and they've just swapped the heads, or did they swap the body?
So the body is not Andrew's, apparently. So
Andrew's head's been swapped?
Yeah. So Andrew's head is in that photo, but he was not in that room. So he was not in Kinnerton Street.
So that head that's on the body is not Andrew?
But basically, Andrew was not there at Kinnerton Street that day. And, you know, there's other stuff as well. Like, I actually snuck into that house about a year ago, Kinnerton Street. Don't ask me how I got in there. Twice, undercover. And you cannot physically fit 3 people on that landing. Literally, we tried it. You can't fit. Like, you know, people like journalists should have actually done their homework and gone to land registry, and you can actually measure that space where they in that photo. You can't fit those 3 people. It's impossible. I tried. Couldn't do it. Doesn't, like, that photo is not real. There's no way Andrew, Virginia, and Ghislaine behind. It's not a real photo. Like, that can just be disproven just by measuring. Number one, that should have been, the case should have been closed a long time ago, just by that one fact.
I'm going to get somebody to actually look at that photo.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Because that area is so small. When I went up the stairs and saw it, I actually didn't know that was the area in the beginning, because it's so tiny in real life. It was like, because we were like looking for the area, right? And it was like, oh my God, that's it. And like, I stood there, one other person's, it was like, and hold on, like, he's bigger than me. Like, this is not, it's impossible. Like, literally, like, impossible. Like, that scale in that picture is not a real scale.
Has Maxwell says anything about the photo?
I know that she did speak out, didn't she? Like, in her interview that she did, that one interview that she did, and she said, yeah, there's what did she say? 100 reasons that photo is not real or something.
So why was the photo made a big deal of then?
Because it was the only thing they had, and the media went crazy with it. You know, when do you know someone with a weird that does a photo with the arm like, was it like that?
Yeah, and one round the waist.
Right. It's not real. He doesn't. Also, I think I said this to you before. He's never carried a wallet in his life, and his ex-wife, the Duchess of York, Fergie, who's a friend of mine, like, she's told me that herself. She's like, I've known him since we were children, and he has never, number one, never carried a wallet, and let alone have a wallet in his back pocket like he does in that picture. Like, he doesn't carry cash. You know, this is a thing. Like, a lot of the royal family, they don't carry cash because either their private policeman would be the one to hold that sort of thing. They don't need cash. They don't pay for anything. So yeah, there's so many things.
What was the story with the wallet?
In the fake photo, in Andrew's body, there's like a wallet in his back pocket. Like, that's not real. Like, anyone that knows him is like, he doesn't carry a wallet.
Yeah, I can't imagine them carrying money with her mother on the, do you know what I'm saying? Or credit cards are paying with Apple Pay. Yeah, like that's believable though. Yeah. That's believable that they don't carry a wallet. Yeah. You can believe that. The royalty, I can't see them going into shops and paying for things. Yes.
Yeah. No.
But the photo does look legit.
And a lot of people also said things like, actually, I need to find this. Somebody sent me a long, detailed explanation of the weather that particular night and that particular weekend back in 2001. It was very wet, and it was like wet and freezing. And they've got the windows open in those pictures. Now, that straight away wouldn't make sense, that you got the windows all wide open on like a freezing. It was like an unusually like cold time at the, you know, in London right then. So what happened? And they've got what she's got like a t-shirt on, and she's like.
So what happens then if it all comes out that she's full of shit? Where can it go if the photos? Listen, as a victim in that, I'm not here. People in the comments or whatever, I'm not shooting them down, but the tide seems to be turning where there is possibilities of what you're saying is all legit. Well, so what happens if the photos are faked and she's made everything up? She's made millions. The guy's lost his life. He's lost his.
Well, he's lost many years, right? I mean, how is he ever going to get that back? And I know he's not like a super vengeful person like I am. Like, I would really want her nailed to a cross, you know, but like he just wants his life back. And what should happen? I mean, she should be put on trial, you know, for sure. I think she definitely needs to be put on trial. She needs to like learn about, you know, these kind of consequences, because it's also important, because other women, it will stop fake victims doing the same thing to men, but since there are so many cases all the time, and it will kind of, it'll make it like more, the cases that we read about are real, because these fake victims are not going to get away with it anymore. And if you do tell lies and you do make up stories, then there's a penalty. You go to jail.
But there's no consequences. The amount of men I've had on listen.
Yeah, and there should be, because she's committed perjury many, many times. Like in court documents, Virginia Giuffre has committed perjury. Let's also remember Alan Dershowitz. She said she'd had sex with him like 6 times. Now, if you have sex with someone like as many times as that, and then she goes, "Oh, I might have made a mistake." Now, is that a credible person? Like, I mean, I suddenly remember who I sleep with, and especially if it's that many times, and then you go back and say, "Oh, actually, it might not be that person. Hold on, it's a whole nother person I slept with."
It should be a crime, because listen, the majority abuse comes from men, but the majority of false accusations comes from women, and there's nothing gets done about it. Brian Banks, I had on the podcast, amazing man, had an NFL career. Kissed a girl at the back of his university. The girl shouted rape. The kid got 12 years in prison, lost his career. His mum lost her house because of legal fees. And after 12 years, she admitted that she was lying. And nothing got done.
And nothing happened to her for lying?
Whatever sentence the man's getting, they should reverse it and give it to the woman for the false allegations, because it is sad, and it does happen too frequently. And the papers just run with it. It can destroy your life just being in the paper, even though you're innocent.
Yeah, because, you know, usually if there's like an apology or something, the apology it kind of comes too late, right? Like everyone sees all the big headlines, and apology is usually small, and no one really sees that. So yeah, she should get a long sentence, definitely.
But it is mad that everyone is connected and there's accusations against them all. Do you know what I'm saying? With the Epstein, Andrew, Clinton's, all those flight logs. Like, I want to see the flight logs. I want to know who's on them. But even if you get them now, how do you even know it's real?
But the thing is, exactly, like if you get flight logs, how do we know that the pilot or someone hasn't tampered with them?
Anybody can write a piece of paper and just throw it out there.
This is the other thing. And so, yeah, I mean, look, if people can fake photos, they can fake flight logs. And obviously, like back then, there wasn't camera phones and things like we have now. I mean, it was just, well, I don't know what year that was all starting, but Yeah, it was a different time. It was harder to like prove stuff back then.
But it's crazy now. We're living in a society where everyone's got a voice. Everybody's got social media. You get crucified just by a post.
Yeah.
And it could be fucking fake. So I understand that. I'm very open to it all. Like I says, I think Epstein's guilty. I think he has done a lot of heinous things. I think he has abused his power. P. Diddy, I think he's guilty.
It's not looking so good for him, for sure.
No. Especially the thing with the elevator.
I mean, Justin Bieber, you know, I think it's very sad, you know, seeing his mental state at the moment. And obviously, like, stuff is true, because otherwise he would have come out and defended someone like, you know, Sean Combs.
I would
you know, if it wasn't,
now.
But he looks totally broken, like just very gone, like
frail and fragile,
very frail.
It's all coming out, and he's a victim.
Yeah. And
I actually worry for that kid.
I know.
It last a year.
Hopefully, you know, that you'd think him having a new baby, that would be something for him to live for. Hopefully now, but he looks like a shell of his former self right now, doesn't he?
What do you think of the Liam Payne thing off the balcony?
I think he was fucked up and fell over. I don't know if he wanted to die or not. Like, do you think it was a suicide, or did he just fall?
I just think he was high on drugs. I don't think anyone's pushed him.
No,
I know people have been charged.
I definitely don't think.
I think people have been charged. I think it might not have been coke he was snorting. It could have been other shit.
Wasn't it? Well, I thought it was a mixture of all kind of different drugs.
Yeah, he had drugs in his blood, but I think he's been buying drugs from, obviously if you're in a hotel, you're going to say, where can I get gear or whatever? Somebody's always going to know someone. I know they've been charged with giving them drugs. I just think it's like a panic attack. That's my opinion, and he's been scared. I don't know. I don't think he's been robbed. I don't think he's been pushed. But then again, you just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't know, but I feel like with him, he obviously had a huge drug problem, and he either was ready to die, or he was so high that he thought he could fly or something, and just
but then again, you look at his interviews, including myself, again guilty of listening to his interviews, and I think he's a fucking idiot. Like, he just spoke differently, like the way he was speaking, it just seemed very cringe. But you don't know if the ridicule.
Why? What kind of stuff that
he's just doing interviews. I think he was on the Logan Paul interview, and it sounded like he was a character. It sounded like he was talking about he would fight KSI, or he would do other stuff, and then he was talking about the Will Smith slap. And poor kid, man, like, we're all judgmental bastards, but yeah, he just came across a bit of a dick on the interviews, but you don't know if the ridicule and the hate from people just goes to their head. But I think that level of fame as well. I don't know anybody who's had that level of fame. I mean,
those kind of like boys from, you know, like those boy bands, and they get fame so early on, and it's very hard for them to handle it. And, you know, they don't really know who are their real friends, and they probably believe stuff that they read about themselves, you know. So yeah, it must be really hard.
What do you think of Trump getting in?
I'm delighted. I've been very, very happy.
Do you think that helps the UK? Because UK is probably one of the worst fucking nations on the planet now. It seems to be a mess here.
It's the crime, and it's the Biden years have come to England. You know, when I decided to move back here, things were looking pretty good here, and
over 10,000.
It's changed.
10,000 millionaires have fucked off. They've left. And the immigration thing.
And then of all these people coming in, flooding our borders and stuff. And we're not looking after our veterans. And I think that is so important. You know, there was a guy that died recently that was a veteran here, and he was homeless, and he froze to death, apparently.
We've never looked after our veterans anytime, anyway. The majority of men on the street are ex-veterans. The work and what they put in, the sacrifices. I don't agree with wars, but I still don't. It doesn't mean I disrespect the people who fight in them, because it's brave and they think they're being patriotic and doing the right thing. But you're just a number. You're just being used. You're just a piece of cattle to go and do the dirty work to then come back and then getting put on the street because your mind can't.
And a lot of these wars, you know, imagine being a soldier and you're fighting in a war, and then you realize that the war that created for you to fight in it was not something that was even real. You know, look at the Iraq War, look at the Twin Towers, you know. That's a good one to chat about. I'm very into...
what do you think about the Twin Towers?
Well, that was a controlled demolition.
Oh,
you know,
anyone
that tries to say it wasn't.
They couldn't burn the steel anyway. That was a myth. They can't. The fuel. They've tried that many times and it doesn't happen.
You can't burn through steel like that.
And how
impossible.
Everybody can get burned alive. All the passengers, the pilots, but yet. The terrorist passport was in the best condition.
Oh my God, it's right there for probably, you know, some sort of CIA spy to find.
But Americans did buy into it. I think a lot of people are now questioning it, but they did buy into it.
You know, the other thing is that with this whole controlled demolition, you know, when you play it back and actually you put it on slow mode, you actually start seeing the bombs on the lower levels actually going off before it comes down, some of it.
What did I have on that says that someone had bought over, because it was in debt.
In the old interviews, there's quite a few firemen that say that they heard bombs going off.
Yeah, because it was in so much debt, but someone bought over the Twin Towers, put an insurance job out it and made 4 or 5 billion because there was asbestos in the building. It was an old building, so... But allegedly in it, it's like just how corrupt the world can be that they can stage a terror attack to then go
and then a whole war happened because of that, you know, and so many people died, and just all for greed and power again.
Do you think there's any good people in politics with 100% clean heart?
Yeah, I think there are good people in politics. I mean, it's definitely hard to find though. You know, because it's just so much money in it and so much power in it, and it's a constant sort of struggle. But yeah, I've been spending a lot of time in America actually since election night. I was covering that. I actually had a press pass, so it was very fun, very exciting.
Who were you?
It was actually more exciting than any Oscar night I've ever had. When I've been with like the cast of the winning movie, this beat it. It was like such a great energy. I was with a couple of friends that worked in the last administration, and they're working in the new one as well.
Who was all there? Trump there? You got a photo?
I saw him. So this is election night. So when he came onto the stage, I happened to be talking to Nigel Farage at the time. And I just met Robert Kennedy for the first time. I've been on a group text with Bobby Kennedy for about 3 or 4 years, and I had only met him for the first time that night. I got connected to him during the whole COVID stuff, and since I was an anti-vaxxer, very proud to have been an anti-vaxxer now, you know, with all this stuff coming out.
What do you think of Bobby Kennedy?
I like him. You know, I do think that he's going to do good in his position. I think it's probably very scary for Big Pharma right now. You know, they must be like terrified because the exposure that's now happening just with the food supply. I mean, there's a lot of food that actually we wouldn't even be able to sell over here. Like UK is much more strict as far as like what pesticides and things that we can have in our food, what colorings that we can have. But you know, the number of like diabetes and just like poor health, like numbers are huge. And obesity, of course, is massive. They put sugar in everything over there. Even the ketchup's got a lot of sugar in it.
What do you think of Nigel Farage?
I like Nigel. I'm really excited about reform. I think reform can do some good things. I was pretty disappointed with the Conservatives. And although I didn't believe in them anymore, I did vote for them. But I only voted for them because I didn't want my area to become Labour. Because then, you know, what happens, which it did. Chelsea is now Labour for the first time ever. Because the problem is, you know, you get some people reform, so then it weakens So yeah, anyway, they got in, and I think the UK is probably not too happy with how it's going over here. Yeah, I think it needed to get to this point though, for someone like Nigel to be the guy. Like, he's the hope right now, I think, for something different that we need. I'm very strong believer in like strong borders. A lot of the things that Trump has been doing, working on getting rid of criminals, getting criminals deported, that's something that I believe strongly in.
Yeah, definitely. Like, when I travel, I've got my passport, I'm spending money in these countries. You've got people here with no passports and committing crimes and doing heinous things. You don't know their background. They should be sent back, 1,000,000%. Like, I'm all for that as well. The borders can be protected in 15 minutes. They can just send the army and protect it straight away. And it stopped. I think Trump stopped it within a day.
Yeah, he was already sending people back. But then there's like a judge recently which is fighting to get like one of these gang members back, like MS-16. Like, wait, what is wrong? Like, these like Democrat, like super left-wing judges, they are like insane. Like, these people are hardcore like criminals, like killing people and stuff. Like, why should they be allowed back in the country?
When are you going to release the recordings of these people?
Oh, the recordings. So yeah, these exciting recordings. So I just met with James O'Keefe. So James, you know, when things were kind of heating up beginning of last week, he reached out to me. He's sort of my hero as far as like investigating. When he started like Project Veritas, I was like following that the whole way through. And so I met up with him on Friday. Obviously, yeah, he's like, I want to hear the recordings. So the recordings, we are just waiting for one thing this week, and I'm hoping that I can release them like in the next coming days or something. But the FBI have got them, but the problem is the FBI are not going to record, like, they're not going to release recordings, are they? No. They've got the recordings, and what we think happened when Virginia came up with this whole photo of her recently, they apparently have knocked on her door recently, as in FBI Australia. And I think that might have kind of freaked her out a little bit, because they would have told her that they've got recordings of her. So I think this is where all these stories are, you know, she's tried to pretend she was in this bus crash and this and the drama. She is just basically trying to evade the law. And so, yeah, I think it's going to get interesting in the next coming weeks.
Absolute madness. It does all come out about the photos, and she's admitted this, and it was all a set up for money. Like, it is scary to think how deep it's went, but it's people will still be in disbelief or not believe it, because it's the names she's speaking about. They're high profile names. It's fucking royalty.
Well, the thing is like, how was someone like her, who was known as not credible from the first time she falsely accused two men, 18-year-olds, when she was a teenager, like, she has a career in this, and somehow we are going to believe the hooker, basically. She's like a druggy hooker. I don't know how else to describe her, but she's the druggy hooker. So we're going to believe her over the son of the queen, who is like, you know, doesn't drink alcohol. Like, he's very military kind of background, you know, pretty kind of like a square kind of person. Like, he's not this sort of wild party guy. That was the other thing. Virginia's original story that she said about Andrew. Oh, we were in Tramp nightclub, and we went to the bar, and he got me this drink. Tramp nightclub, number one, she's pretending she was there like on a Saturday night. I used to go there. That was the hotspot club. There is no way she was in Tramp nightclub wearing that outfit in that photo. You wouldn't be allowed in Tramp nightclub in that outfit. Plus, there was no paparazzi pictures. There were millions. There were so many paparazzi. Back in 2001, I couldn't even go out of my front door without me getting chased by paparazzis. And they would be like all around. When I was in a black cab, like going out the door, they would be surrounding me. You think Prince Andrew is coming out of Tramp nightclub on a Saturday night and there's not one photo of it? It's impossible. I always said this from the beginning, like the first stuff that she said, I was like totally not believable. But the problem is he was an easy target because the palace just never comments, right? They just kind of put their head in the sand and think it's going to go away, and they let it build up. And it was 4 years from the first time she gave the Daily Mail or the Mail on Sunday that photograph where she said, oh, I was so happy to meet a prince, and it was a photo for my mother. Where is Virginia Guthrie's mother? Because we never hear about her. We just see the pictures of the dad, right? And then 4 years later, she then turned it into, oh, I met him, to, oh, he raped me. It was exactly like around 4 years. So I think what she did is she did the story. She tested it out to see if they're going to comment and waited it out. If they had put something straight away and said, he's never met her, the whole thing would have gone away. The problem is they didn't. They let it get bigger and bigger, and they kept ignoring it, by which point, like, it became such a big story and was getting so much attention that the papers just kept running with it.
Why would the royalties not shut down the press who were going to release negative stories about them, especially so damaging? That's what I always thought.
But that's the thing. But that's the thing. Like I said, it was quite handy for the palace, this whole story, because, you know, he had this really successful thing called Pitch at the Palace, and you know, it was very popular, and the Queen attended to it, and so there is just like jealousy within the family, and him getting falsely accused. It was just very handy for all of them for that to happen to him. I think they totally threw him under the bus. And with that interview as well, that interview should never have happened. I mean, I don't know, because obviously I was not there. I'm just going by what I saw in those, was it the Netflix one I think I saw? And
The Scoop.
Yeah, that one. I didn't actually watch the second one. I just thought, oh, this story has been done so much at this point. But was that the one with Rufus played him?
Yeah, I think it was a woman from the BBC. That was a journalist. It was at ITV, the blonde hair.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how they go.
And he basically just walks right in.
I thought they were getting the interview.
Yeah.
He came in there himself. No team, no nothing.
Yeah.
They never questioned that. They'd said to him, are you okay with it? And he says, yep.
Yeah.
Good to go, or I loved it, or whatever.
Good to go. And the thing is, like, this is also so crazy, is that there was no like cut off, or like, these are the questions that you're going to ask, and like nothing else, or none of that. You know, it was just like, okay, let's roll, you know?
Yeah. That was
and
career
suicide. If you think about it, right, if he is guilty and stuff, he would never have done an interview like that. Like, that would never have been allowed.
Was there any more accusations for any more women, or is it only this woman?
No. No, not that I know of, no.
So that's the thing where
but
it's one accusation where it is a possibility that
but
he is innocent.
The problem is as well, like someone like this, obviously you get a fraudster like Virginia Giuffre coming out, and then you think, oh God, if someone pays her off, then other girls are going to think, oh, I might have a go at that. Like, you know, maybe I'm going to try and get a couple million and make up a story. So obviously that is the other thing. Like, when she finally gets sort of shut up on this case, and like everything comes out, then that will stop other women who are making up stories.
I don't even think it will, because the majority of people who make them up are psychotic. And
that is true. That is true. So I remember the other girl. Yeah, there's this girl, Juliette Bryant, total freaking lunatic. Like, I remember I was on Piers Morgan's show one day, and they were trying to bring her in via like satellite. She was in South Africa. and they had to cut her off like halfway through, like she was having a party in her hotel room while she was doing an interview. And it was, it was mad. You could hear all the people behind. It was like, they're just trying to make a quick buck, these girls, you know. And I think it was very coordinated as far as the lawyers. And I don't think it's just the girls' faults. I think it's the attorneys that put these stories into the girls' heads and are like, show the dollar signs and like, if you say this, then you can get this.
I'm just surprised though that nobody looked at the photo, debunked the photo, got the professionals, this photo's fake, and then plastered it in all the front pages of the newspapers.
Yeah.
That would be the simple kind
of
solution.
You got to remember the Daily Mail paid, what did they pay? Like hundreds of thousands for her story by the end of it. So it's like, you know, them then doing that, they're basically, you know, saying, oh, whoops. I mean, right now she should really pay the Daily Mail back their money, and she should pay the royal family back their money, and anyone else. Like, I know there's other people that she's taken money from. Like, every time that she would be running out of money, she would be starting another lawsuit with someone else. I don't know where all her money goes. You know, the dad is like saying he's living on Social Security, so I guess she doesn't like help him out at all.
What's she doing with her money if she's got money from Netflix?
Well, I do remember a few years ago when I started speaking with George Tonks, and he was he's the guy that was best friends with Advar, the guy that was murdered. So George is the one in the phone conversation with Virginia and Maria Farmer when Virginia admits that it wasn't real, like nothing happened with Prince Andrew. So yeah, he'll be speaking out at some point soon, I hope.
So Prince Andrew says he's never met her.
Yeah, he says that he's never met her. Yeah,
like that is madness to think if he did not meet her.
And actually, I mean, the good thing is that he always said like it didn't happen, right? You know, at least people didn't manage to like, because sometimes, you know, with these plea deals and stuff, you know, the reason, you know, some people end up being convicted and stuff, they have to like sign these plea deals, and then they go to jail, and they have to like basically admit that they did something that they didn't do to get a lesser sentence, which is so wrong. And the prosecutors get, you know, extra money for that, for every plea that they get. So yeah, it's a warped world, this whole thing. It just stinks, to be honest. Like James Comey, who was the old head of the FBI, his daughter was actually the prosecutor in Ghislaine's case. And James Comey was good friends with the lawyers of the girls. So it does stink.
Yeah, I just thought the royal family would have had so much pull, man. I thought they would have owned the media to print the stories to benefit them. And if anybody was to go missing, it would be her. Like,
yeah,
I think it just seems all one-sided.
I think as far as the press, I think it's only the monarch that sort of gets they sort of back off with. The rest of the family, it's a kind of like
target.
Yeah.
And do you think he can get his life back if everything's just?
I hope so. I mean, you know, he hasn't really been able to do much. I think he's been too scared to do too much, you know.
Listen, I don't know, but you know what? It would be an absolute fucking liberty if it had been set up. If the photo from Epstein was set up from Epstein's side.
Yeah, I do think that photo was set up from Epstein's side.
If this girl's made it all up and he's paid millions just before his mum's died, for his mum to then think that was true, that's sad. But I can understand other people thinking, well, he was friends with Epstein and the photo looks legit, and talking about
just because
Pizza
I'm
Express.
friends. Yeah, I mean,
the interview was fucking bad.
It was
the Pizza Express thing, and I don't sweat and. Like,
but maybe, you know, he wasn't Pizza Express.
Listen, you could be 100% spot on. I genuinely don't know. I'm on the fence with the Prince Andrew one. Like I say, Epstein's guilty, Weinstein's guilty. I think Diddy's guilty, but we're just with too many parties with Diddy. And I have spoke to people who've I spoke to his bodyguards enough to understand that there was a lot of fuckery going on. I think it's maybe started off as parties.
Oh yes, I did see some of your interviews.
And then I just think he's got darker and more satanic and more weird as he's got older, because he says he used to be a great guy until he started taking drugs. And the drugs have just fucked him up.
And I think anyone that takes a large amount of drugs, they just lose like their concept of reality. You know, imagination and reality, it all kind of turns into one, and they just lose it, right?
What do you think of Russell Brand getting chanced?
So Russell Brand, I actually met him recently. Where was I? In Florida. I don't know about that. You know, he admits he was a sex addict. He admits he was, you know, drug addict, sex addict. But I don't know if he would actually... I don't know if I would believe he actually would intentionally rape someone. I feel like these girls were sort of throwing themselves at him.
20 years ago when he was a drug addict. So you mix in a sex addict and throw in some drugs with that. That's a hell of a show where you're not in control. So with Russell Brand stuff, I know he speaks out against a lot of stuff, but if I'm honest, I'm on the fence with that one right now. Part of me didn't believe it 3 years ago, 2 years ago when it came out. Now I'm kind of thinking...
But also it's kind of like he's an easy target because he's been such a strong voice.
But he had the investigation for the last few years, so that they become a stronger voice and speak out against the grain, so they make it look like some sort of attack. Because not everybody's innocent either.
No, of course. Not everyone is innocent. Absolutely not.
I'm very on the fence with that. I hope it's not true, because I used to love Russell Brand.
I hope it's not true.
And to come out 20 years later, it doesn't matter. You can come out 20 years, 50 years later, but you can't. It's a weird one, because he's admitted the drugs and the sex addict. And I watched his interviews maybe 10, 15 years ago when he was doing the big, and he did come across a bit sleazy.
Right.
But I think that's the character he's been told to play. You look at Gino D'Acampo, they've got that poor bastard out with his ass out on TV.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? They're using him, but yet there's accusations now coming out against him. So you have got to stay open-minded to all. Listen, even if you get a conviction, it doesn't mean you're guilty either, because of the system so fucked. And just because you get a not guilty, it doesn't mean you're not guilty either. You could potentially be guilty. So we're living in a society where everybody's all over the place.
Yeah, no, it is. It is all over the place.
Fucking madness. Conor McGregor getting done in the civil court as
and it's like, do you think that is a political attack?
Well, it happened before the political stuff.
What about that school teacher in Ireland that had all his bank accounts frozen? He kind of spoke out about like the trans movement.
Sure.
It's like it was a big story in Ireland.
Mo Rami on, Asian man, and the girl accused him of all sorts. Do you know this girl? Everybody believed him. They tried to burn his house. He tried to take his own life. His son tried to take his own life. Do you know this girl was hitting herself with a hammer?
Oh my God. Well, that's what I thought. That's the kind of thing Virginia Giuffre is capable of.
And
like
the girl ended up getting 8 years. So
wow.
It's difficult.
So they caught her out then?
Yeah, her friend was videoing her, hit herself with a hammer. But she went to the police and they got charged. Because if you go to the police with bruises, you're thinking, it must be true. And like I say, the majority of this stuff comes from men, but the majority of the fucking false accusations come from women. So it's just because of the people I interview. I've got to stay open-minded.
Yeah, of course. You've got to stay open-minded.
If the Prince Andrew thing's right, I had 100% him guilty. 100% guilty. Friends with Epstein. He's got photos here. The interview's a disaster. You're guilty. You're caught. You're caught with your fucking pants down, basically. But now, I'm thinking, shit.
Yeah.
What if I'm wrong?
I know.
Do you know what I'm saying? Listen,
apologies.
I would apologise. I'm man enough to go, I fucked up there. This guy's innocent. And that's mad to think, because for the last 2 years,
he's just not been able to defend himself. I mean, it was that one bad interview that he was stitched up. Look, Emily Maitlis is she is a vile human being. I mean,
who's she?
She was the one that interviewed him.
Oh, she looked ruthless.
If you watch, have you seen her other interviews that she does all the time? Like, she's totally insane. Like, she was like attacking Nigel Farage, like she was attacking people that worked for Trump a couple months ago. Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's really nuts psycho. So yeah, I hadn't really, you know, all I had known her for before was like BBC reporter, but like the stuff she does now, she's really like not a nice person.
I think the people in these high power places, the interviews don't do them good. Same as the Michael Jackson thing. He done one with Oprah and who was the little Asian guy? Bashir.
Oh, Martin Bashir, yeah.
Fucked him over. But he's standing with a kid saying he enjoys sleeping in the same bed as kids and stuff, Well, Bashir forged the letter.
Yeah.
I think he'd forged the letter from Diana or something.
These guys, BBC, I mean, you know, you'd think they would be trying to get the real story and not creating things, but yeah.
But that's the back in the day when they used to tamper with the phone calls and bug the phone calls. Gaza, he fell out with all his friends and family because they were getting stories of him that he'd only told his friends and family, but they were bugging his calls. They used to put bottles of vodka out the poor bastard's door, Chappie's door. They used to come out and pick it up, and they used to snap him with the vodka bottles, saying he was back on the drink.
Oh my God, that's so evil.
But that's, listen, the cameramen and the photographers, they're getting their money from these pictures were worth 100 grand.
Back then, paparazzi, they don't make as much money anymore.
Not buttons now, but £1 million you were getting for Princess Diana photos.
Wow, yeah. So it was a lot of competition. No wonder they were like scaling walls and jumping up trees.
Did you ever come across Princess Diana?
I had met her like when I was pretty young at the time.
What was she like?
She seemed, I mean, I remember, you know, being sort of impressed by her, right? She was, you know, Princess Diana. And, but I remember the night you know, when you remember those things in history, like I remember that night when she died, just like I remember when Michael Jackson died as well, where I was at the time. Anna Nicole Smith as well. I remember where I was when she died. Like those big stories.
When she died, the girl who with the old man.
Yeah.
I actually watched a documentary on her and she was brilliant. She was really good. She came across excellent.
Yeah, that was really awful as well, wasn't it? How they were fighting over her will and everything. But Michael Jackson, these attorneys in Hollywood, they are lethal. And the people that took him down, there was even that recording of Michael Jackson on the phone saying they're trying to kill me. Do you remember, just before he died as well?
He says they were overworking him. They were trying to kill him. He was doing like 50 shows, I think, in the O2.
No, it wasn't even that. It was like a recording like they're trying to kill me. I don't know how they're going to do it or something. Yeah. So, yeah, it is quite spooky, that stuff in Hollywood. Just like Britney Spears, like watching her meltdowns and stuff, like what is going on with her.
I quite like her. But she obviously fucking lost it as well because of what they go through at a young age.
Yeah.
There's no child stars came through and they're actually sane.
Yeah.
They're all kind of insane. It's not normal to be idolised. It's not normal to be running around and hiding from paparazzi.
No, it's not in the normal life.
Who else is there?
They lose their childhood, you know. I think Disney, well, there's a lot of stuff about Disney, isn't there, in the conspiracy world of what really they're up to. And
Walt Disney.
Apparently there's tunnels and stuff underneath Disneyland.
Well, I said tunnels
and kids that
Mansion.
Oh, for sure. But kids that have disappeared from the bathroom apparently in Disneyland and just disappeared. And there was, you know, I don't know how real these videos are, but the stuff that you find on Instagram of this guy actually tracing back this tunnel that went to one of the bathrooms so kids could be like kidnapped. So it does make one wonder. Plus, they went very on the woke side, didn't they, Disney? And
well, let's see if you can get
they haven't been that popular.
The rabbit hole of Walt Disney and who he was and who he was connected to, and all the Disney movies as well. There's nothing positive comes from them. They're all raised by stepmothers, evil sisters, and single fathers, single mothers. They're not raised by a stable household.
It's true.
Loving family, and kids are watching that, so they're normalizing.
They're normalizing. Yeah.
But then again, it's what the fuck do you do? There's just so much. There's so much. But even David Icke said yesterday, it's just to be aware of it, which is important, to ask the questions and then have your own knowledge to it, because people are so caught up in their own life. They forget. It's news today, but forgotten tomorrow. So what can you do?
And especially when there's so much content coming out all the time. Like, you know, nowadays, especially younger people growing up, you know, they're quite like ADD as far as, well, attention deficit disorder or, yeah. But it's like, how do they take all this stuff in? Because there's just so much, all these apps. And, you know, I don't think people really watch the news like they did. They just see stuff on their phone, you know.
Where do you go forward with it all then? What's your plans?
So right now we will see at what point when the recordings can be released. That I'm really looking forward to. At the time when we weren't allowed to talk about them, I had this vision of like having them play out in places like Times Square and just have them play. Have like buses driving down the street with it playing as well. That would be great, with pictures of Virginia on the side. Yeah, I'm excited about what is to come. So
listen,
and then I will be throwing the party.
Yeah, fair play for chapping the door with it. Like I said last year, I'm thinking, nah.
I feel like it's all the hard work is paying off right now. Like,
is it more of a relief for you?
Yeah, it is.
Like told you so. It's not a case of like told you so, because like I say,
because I haven't even really talked about it since Advar was killed last July. I really went quiet on all this stuff, like until I knew what we were gonna kind of. We had to wait to see who was going to win the election, because this is another thing. So David Boies, who is Virginia's lawyer, who was the one representing her against Prince Andrew, he had Hunter Biden on salary. So basically under Joe Biden, like, we were never going to be able to get the right information out. So we had to wait for Trump to win. I've been going to Palm Beach a lot. I've been meeting with the FBI. I've met Kash Patel a couple times now. I made him aware of everything, and his department, and yeah, just, you know, staying connected with people within the Trump administration and making sure that they have the right information.
So, for anybody watching, how can they get in contact if you say someone's got information that they want to give you?
Yeah, that would also be great, you know, because there is a new, there is a lawsuit right now that there's a girl called Rena O, who she calls Virginia Giuffre, like Virginia was her predator. And that lawsuit has just been basically given the green light. For it to happen. Virginia's lawyers have been trying to stop it for like the last year or two. That was given the green light a couple of days ago. So yeah, I say that anyone else that has got any information regarding these cases connected to Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, Virginia Giuffre, Maria Farmer, Sarah Ransom, any of the other girls, if you've got info, you can either email me. Actually, the email is on my Instagram at Lady Victoria Harvey. And that's the best way to reach me, really. DM and email is on there.
Lady V, would you like to finish up on anything else?
What else do we have? I think we're good. I think ready for some dinner.
Yeah, let's go. That's the best, and I look forward to see what you expose in the future.
All right. Okay. Cheers.